The war between humans and the Zolari had not lasted long. It wasn't even a real war, just a few short battles in deep space, a misunderstanding, some border tension, and a few unlucky encounters. Danil, a human scout, had been flying a solo mission when his ship was pulled from hyperspace by a Zolari cruiser. He didn't even have time to fight. Within seconds, he was trapped in a glowing energy net, pulled into the belly of the alien ship, and dragged into a metal room that looked more like a cell than a prison. He sat on the bench, looking around. The walls were smooth and dark. The air smelled like metal and strange oil. The light above his head hummed softly. Danil wasn't a soldier. He was just a scout. He mapped stars, scanned moons, and sent back reports. He had no idea what the Zolari would do to him. Then the door opened. She stepped inside with heavy boots, each footstep echoing. She was tall, almost a full head taller than him, and covered in bright silver armor from neck to toe. Her helmet looked like the head of a sharp dragon, long and sleek, with two thin lines for eyes. She removed her helmet slowly. Her skin was a dark bronze with faint green scales. Along her jawline, her eyes were golden. Her voice was low but smooth when she spoke. "You are the human called Danil." Danil raised an eyebrow. "And you're my welcoming party?" She didn't answer. She just walked to the center of the room and stood still, hands behind her back. "I am Riva," she said. "I have been assigned as your guard." "Nice to meet you, Riva," Danil said, forcing a smile. "You're very shiny." Her eyes narrowed a little. "Your tone is strange." "Are you mocking?" "No," he said quickly, "just trying to lighten the mood. You know, humor." She tilted her head. "Explain." Danil leaned back against the wall. "Humor is when we say things that aren't meant to be taken seriously. It's supposed to make people laugh or feel less tense." Riva stared at him. "Zolari do not joke." Danil gave a small shrug. "That sounds boring." She didn't react. Days passed. Riva came to the cell every morning. She brought food, checked the systems, and stood quietly. Danil tried to talk, joke, even sing once. She said nothing at first, but slowly she began to ask questions. About Earth, about humans, about what made them laugh, cry, fight. One morning, she stood near the door and looked at him as he finished breakfast. "What do humans desire most?" she asked. Danil raised an eyebrow. "What? Like as a species? As individuals?" He thought for a second, then gave a crooked smile. "Well, that depends on the person. Some want peace, some want love. Some want a big house or a fast ship." She kept looking at him, not blinking. Then, trying to lighten the moment, Danil laughed and added, "Me? I just want you." Riva didn't blink, didn't flinch. She just nodded once and left the room. Danil sat there for a long time, thinking about her reaction. Had she understood the joke, or had she misunderstood entirely? The next day, she came again. This time, her helmet was off, and a small metal piece on her right shoulder was missing. Her armor looked slightly less complete than before. "Hey," Danil said, noticing the change. "You lose something." She glanced at her shoulder. "I removed it." "Why?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped closer to him than she ever had before. "In Zolari culture," she said, "to offer oneself is a mark of trust, but only if the desire is spoken first by the other." Danil blinked. "Wait, what are you saying?" "You said you desired me," Riva said calmly. "Was that false?" Danil opened his mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. "I was joking. That's what I meant earlier. It wasn't serious." Riva's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in deep thought. "You spoke the words clearly," she said. "In our culture, if someone speaks desire with intent and the other accepts, a ritual begins. Armor is removed slowly as a sign of truth. And trust. You have spoken. I will answer." Danil held up his hands. "Wait, hold on. I think there's been a huge misunderstanding here." Riva tilted her head. "You fear the ritual?" "No," he said. "I mean, yes, sort of. I didn't mean it. It was just a joke." She stood silently for a moment. Then, for the first time, her lips curled slightly upward. Not a full smile, But clothes. I see, she said softly. Perhaps I should learn more of human joking. And with that, she left. Danil sat back, heart racing. What just happened? The next morning, Reeve arrived without her shoulder guards. The next day, Danil woke up early. He sat on the edge of the bench in his cell, waiting. His thoughts were spinning in all directions. He wasn't sure what he had started. He only knew that things felt different now. Just like before, the door opened with a soft hiss. Reva stepped inside. This time, her armor was even lighter. The shoulder plates were gone, and now her gauntlets, those heavy silver gloves, were missing too. Her hands were bare. The scales on her fingers shimmered. Faintly under the cell lights, Danil stood up, unsure of what to say. Morning, Reva gave him a nod. You did not eat yesterday's fruit portion. Danil blinked. You ate? Yeah, it was too sour. I will ask for adjustment, she said simply. Then she paused. Did you sleep well? Danil tilted his head. That's the first time you've asked me that. Reva didn't reply. She just stared at him with those golden eyes. He rubbed the back of his neck. Look, Reva, about what I said the other day, I really didn't mean it. I didn't mean it seriously. I was just joking. I understand, she said calmly. I spent time in the library unit. I studied humor. I now know that humans say many things they do not mean. Danil let out a sigh of relief. Thank you. That clears things up. But, she added, in Zolari tradition, spoken desire must be considered, even if it was not fully understood. We do not take such words lightly. Danil gave a small laugh. You really are serious people, huh? Reva gave the smallest nod. Yes. There was silence for a moment. Danil looked at her bare hands. So, you're still removing your armor. Why? Reva stepped closer. I'm curious. No human has ever spoken like that before. You confuse me, but I do not dislike it. Danil wasn't sure how to respond. Her words were calm and direct, but something in her eyes looked softer now. Not warm exactly, but less sharp than before. Later, that day, Danil was taken from his cell not in chains, but under light escort. Two other Zolari guards walked beside him through the wide, dark halls of the cruiser. The ship's design was strange sharp lines, long corridors, and glowing blue crystals placed in the walls like stars frozen in place. They entered a circular room filled with control panels, long glass screens, and floating holograms. It was the command chamber. There were other Zolari officers there, tall, armored, silent. They watched Danil closely, but said nothing. Reva was waiting near a display table. She motioned for him to stand beside her. What is this? Danil asked. This is your solar system, she said. We are studying human movement and travel patterns. The Admiral wanted your thoughts. Danil blinked. Wait, you want my help now? You are not a prisoner anymore, Reva replied. You are being observed. He gave a small laugh. Great, so I'm still stuck in a cage, but now it's just a fancier one. No, said a voice from behind. Danil turned to see another Zolari female approaching. Her armor was black and gold. Her face was older, with deeper lines in her scales. This had to be someone important. I'm Commander Thera, she said. You impressed Reva. That is rare, very rare, she requested. You be studied further. Danil looked at Reva, who stood silent beside him. Commander Thera spoke again. Most humans panic, beg, complain. But you joke, you smile, you confuse us. Reva thinks you may be important. We are curious why. Danil tried to stay calm. Maybe I'm just trying to survive. Humor helps, perhaps, Thera said. We will watch and learn. Danil was taken back to the cell, but now the door no longer locked. He could step into the hallway. The guards still waited nearby. A table and chair were added to his room. The food improved. The lights were brighter. Reva still came every day. One evening, she brought him a small screen. You may choose. From human recordings, for comfort. Danil smiled. Thanks. Can I watch old Earth shows? Yes, she said. He tapped through the files. Found an old comedy series. Played it out loud. Reva watched with him, sitting across the room. Her armor now reduced to only the chest and boots. She watched the screen without blinking as the human actors made silly jokes. And laughed. She didn't laugh. But she listened. After a while, Danil asked, "So, do you get it now?" "Jokes, I mean," Riva turned to him. "Some. But not all. Your kind hides truth inside jokes." "It is a strange defense." Danil nodded. "Yeah, that's fair." She looked at him closely. "When you said you wanted me, was there no truth at all?" Danil opened his mouth, then paused. "I don't know. Maybe I didn't mean it then. But now, I don't know." Riva stood and walked toward him. She reached up and unlocked a clasp on her chest plate. The armor fell loose. She set it aside. Now only her boots remained. Danil stood frozen. She said one quiet sentence. "I choose to continue." Then she turned and left the room. Danil stared at the door long after it closed. He whispered to himself, "What have I gotten into?" For the next 3 days, Danil didn't know what to expect. He was no longer locked in his cell. He could walk the nearby halls of the Zolari cruiser. The guards still watched from a distance. Every Zolari who passed him gave him a look, not angry, not harsh, just watching him carefully. It felt like he had become part of something important, but he still didn't understand what. Riva visited him every evening. Each time, her armor was less. Now she wore only a plain cloth tunic and light boots. The silver plates were all gone. Danil wasn't sure how to react. Her posture had changed too. She was less stiff, more thoughtful. Sometimes she stood by the door, saying nothing. Sometimes she asked questions about Earth or about how humans chose their partners. Finally, one evening, she stepped into his room and said, "You must begin the challenge." Danil looked up from the data pad he was reading. "Challenge? What challenge?" Riva stood still, her hands behind her back. Among the Zolari, when a bond is offered, it must be earned. Words are not enough, actions must follow. Danil frowned. "Wait, I didn't ask for any bond. I was just—" "I know," she interrupted. "But the words were spoken. You said you wanted me. Joke or not," I answered. "Now the challenge must begin." He stood slowly. "What does this challenge involve? Do I have to fight someone?" "No," she said. "You must face 3 trials. They are not about strength. They are about understanding. You must prove that your heart and mind are strong, that you can be trusted, that you can endure." Danil sighed. "That sounds hard." Riva stepped closer. "If you pass, the bond is complete. If you fail, the offer ends. But I believe you can succeed." Danil looked into her eyes. "Why do you care so much? I'm just a human. Your people didn't even know us a year ago." Riva nodded. "That is true. But you are different. You are not afraid to speak. You are not afraid to laugh, even when alone in a cell. You did not try to fight or run. You listened, and when I removed my armor, you did not mock me." Danil swallowed. "All right, I'll try." Riva gave a slow nod. "Come, we begin now." The first trial took place in a long metal chamber. A strange machine sat in the center of the room, glowing with blue energy. Riva stood beside it. "This is a gravity pod. Inside, you will feel 5 times the force of your own weight. You must stand for 1 full cycle. No sitting, no falling." Danil stared at the pod. "That's it? Just stand," Riva said softly. "It is not as easy as it sounds." Danil stepped inside. The door closed behind him. At first, everything felt normal. Then, suddenly, his knees bent as if something pressed down on him. His chest felt heavy. Breathing became hard. His legs shook. He gritted his teeth. Minutes passed. His arms trembled. Sweat formed on his face. The pressure felt like being underwater, deep and heavy. But he didn't fall. At the end of the cycle, the weight vanished. Danil dropped to one knee, panting. Riva opened the door and helped him up. "You passed." Danil looked up at her. 1 down, 2 to go. The second trial was held in a quiet chamber filled with floating crystals. Each crystal glowed with a soft light and played a sound, some loud, some soft, some painful, some calm. A Zolari technician explained. "This test measures focus and memory. You must listen to each sound once, then name them in the correct order from memory." Danil scratched his head. "All right, I've played memory games before. I think I can handle it." The technician nodded. The sounds began. At first, it was simple birdsong. Rain, thunder. Then came whispers and alien voices, heavy breathing, a human laugh, a Zolari roar. The sound of crashing glass. Danil closed his eyes and repeated them in order. He got the first 10 right. Then the machine added more. He frowned, trying hard to remember. He got 3 wrong. Then 2 right, then 1 wrong. The lights dimmed. The technician turned. "He has passed." "Barely." Riva stepped forward. "Still a pass." Danil wiped his forehead. "So what's the third test? Do I have to walk through fire?" Riva didn't smile, but her eyes looked calm. "No," she said. "The third test is trust." Later that evening, Riva brought Danil to a small docking bay. A shuttle sat nearby, open and ready. "We will fly into a simulated battle," she said. "You will be the pilot. I will sit in the rear, with no control. You must get us to the other side safely. If we are hit, or if I must take control, the test ends." Danil stared at the shuttle. "Wait, you're trusting me with your life." "Yes," she said, "and you must trust that I will not interfere." "That is the test." Danil stepped inside. His hand shook slightly as he gripped the controls. The shuttle lifted off. The simulation began. Flashes of light appeared outside the window, lasers, enemy ships, warning alarms. The shuttle rocked. Danil's heart pounded. He remembered old training: zigzag movement, power shifts, shield toggling. Twice, he nearly hit debris. Once, an enemy fighter locked onto them. He pulled a sharp dive and slipped behind a moon fragment. Finally, the computer voice said, "Simulation complete. Shuttle secure." Danil leaned back, breathing hard. Riva stepped forward. "You passed, all 3. He looked at her. "What now?" She removed her boots, the last piece of armor, and placed them beside him. "I am no longer a guard," she said. "Now I'm yours to accept or to walk away." Danil looked down at the armor, then up at her. He didn't speak, but he didn't walk away. After passing the 3 trials, Danil noticed the change in how others treated him. The Zolari guards no longer stared at him with suspicion. They gave respectful nods when he passed. Some even spoke a few words, asking about Earth, about his training, about how a human learned to fly like that. No one mocked, no one laughed. But Danil knew respect when he saw it. He didn't feel like a prisoner anymore. Riva stayed near him. She no longer wore armor. Her movements were lighter now, but her eyes remained sharp. She was a warrior, even without metal plates. But now, she was also something more: a guide, a companion, maybe even a friend. One morning, Riva took him to a new part of the Shipan area he had never seen before. It was a massive chamber filled with training platforms, floating drones, and young Zolari cadets in dark gray uniforms. They looked young, alert, and focused. Some were running through obstacle courses. Others were practicing with glowing staves. Riva motioned to a side platform. "Today, you will train with the cadets." Danil blinked. "Me? Train them?" "No," she said. "You will train with them. If you are to be part of us, you must know how we move, how we fight. They are the future, and they will test you in their own way." Danil looked at the tall, serious cadets. "I think they already don't like me." Riva nodded. "Good. That means they'll try harder. You must try harder too." Sharp whistles sounded, and an older Zolari trainer stepped forward. He was missing one arm, but he walked with steady confidence. "This is Master Goran," Riva said. "He will guide the session." Goran looked at Danil without blinking. "You are the human." Danil gave a small wave. "That's me. You?" "Pass the trials," Goran said. "But now you must pass the eyes of the young. They will not accept words, only effort." Danil took a deep breath. "All right, let's begin." The first drill was balance. Danil stood on a moving platform, while small drones zipped past him in all directions. The cadets stood on other platforms, perfectly still, as if floating on air. Danil stumbled, arms waving, trying not to fall. One drone zipped past his ear. He ducked, almost fell, then caught himself. The cadets didn't laugh, But they watched closely. After 10 minutes, Danil stayed on his feet, barely. The next drill was reaction speed. Glowing lights flashed in random patterns. The goal was to touch them as quickly as possible. Danil was slow at first. The cadets moved like lightning, tapping the lights in perfect rhythm. Danil missed a few, then caught up. He began to predict the patterns. His hands moved faster. One of the cadets, a young female named Vel, narrowed her eyes. She stepped closer to Danil and joined his station. The lights doubled in speed. Danil pushed himself. Sweat rolled down his face. His arms ached, but he kept going. After 5 minutes, Vel gave a short nod and stepped away. Riva watched from the side, arms crossed. The final test of the day was a team exercise. A small mock battle was staged. Danil was paired with 2 cadets, Vel and a tall male named Tarn, against a group of 4 drones set to attack. Danil didn't carry a weapon, just a training stick. He stood in the center while Vel and Tarn flanked him. The drones came fast. Vel rolled left and hit the first drone with a sharp strike. Tarn blocked the second and pushed it back. The third came straight for Danil. He ducked, stepped aside, and swung the stick sideways. It hit the drone's wing, sending it into a spin. The fourth drone fired a stun beam. Danil jumped behind cover, pulled a metal disc from the floor, and tossed it high. The beam hit the disc and bounced off harmlessly. Together, the trio finished the fight in under 2 minutes. The drones shut down. The lights turned blue. Danil dropped to the floor, gasping for air. Master Goran walked over, nodding once. "You work well in chaos. That is a strength." Vel looked at Danil and said, "You are not fast, but you are clever." Tarn added, "You do not quit." Danil smiled weakly. "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all day." Riva walked forward. "You have faced the judgment of the young, and you did not fall." Danil stood slowly. "So, what now?" Riva looked at the cadets, then back at him. "Now, they speak your name with respect. That is rare for an outsider." That night, Danil sat in his quarters. The walls felt less cold. A small plant from the garden bay had been placed near his bed. The datapad now held new files, Zalari, history, poems, and even old battle records. He opened one of the poems and read quietly to himself. "You have become more than a joke," said a soft voice from the door. Danil turned. Riva stood there, hands folded. He smiled. "You finally get jokes now." She walked in. "I understand now that jokes hide truth." Danil laughed. "Not always." Riva stepped closer. "But sometimes, and you hid behind them when you were afraid." Danil looked down. "Yeah, that's true." Riva sat beside him. "You no longer hide." Danil looked at her. "And you no longer wear armor?" They sat in silence for a long time. Outside the window, stars drifted by like slow-moving sparks. Danil spoke quietly. "I don't know where this is going, Riva, but I'm still here." Riva nodded. "Then we go forward." 2 days passed quietly. Danil spent his mornings with the young Zalari cadets, training in new techniques and running strategy drills. In the evenings, he talked with Riva, sometimes over food, sometimes while walking the long halls of the ship. Life had shifted. He was no longer treated as a prisoner or even an outsider. Now, he felt something else. He wasn't sure what it was, but it felt close to belonging. One evening, Riva brought him to a chamber near the top of the cruiser. The room had high windows showing deep space. A soft blue light filled the walls. It was quiet. "This is the Hall of Witness," she said. "Here, names are recorded. Promises are made." Danil looked around. "Why are we here?" Riva stood straight. Her voice was calm but strong. "The Admiral has chosen to hold a recognition ceremony. You will be honored before the crew." Danil's eyes widened. "Me? For what?" "You passed all trials. You earned respect. But there is more. You saved us during a time of danger." Danil frowned. "What danger?" Riva looked at him. "You will see." The next morning, Riva led Danil to the training halls as usual. But this time, the room was different. All the drones were powered down. The cadets stood in 2 lines. At the far end, Master Gorn waited with several senior officers, including Commander Thera. The air felt heavy, serious. Danil walked slowly between the lines of cadets. No one spoke. Every eye was on him. At the front, Gorn raised a hand. Danil of Earth, you have walked through challenge. You have faced judgment. You have stood beside our young and did not fall. But now you must face the final truth. Danil stood tall. What truth? Thera stepped forward. Our ship received a call 2 nights ago. A small Zalari training vessel was attacked by raiders in deep space. All adult guards were disabled. Only young cadets remained on board. Danil felt his heart skip. What happened? Thera nodded toward Riva. We took your shuttle and reached the vessel in time. Riva led the mission. But it was your plan that saved them. Danil blinked. What plan? I never, Riva interrupted gently. The maneuvers you practiced. In simulation, your technique of using debris for cover, your trick with the signal bounce. I remember all of it. I followed your methods. And the cadets lived. Danil stared at her. Speechless, Commander Thera raised her voice. For this reason, we record your name in our Hall of Witness. You are the first human given this honor. Step forward. Danil stepped up, unsure of what to do. Riva placed her hand on a glowing pad. The screen lit up. Name? She asked. Danil answered slowly. Danil, son of Mira. Riva pressed her hand again. The screen accepted the name. Then, something unexpected happened. Riva turned to the crowd, removed her tunic, and placed it folded on the stone table beside her. Underneath, she wore only a plain silver sash across her chest like cloth, not armor. Her shoulders and arms were bare. The entire hall fell silent. Danil stood frozen. Riva turned to him and spoke clearly. I now stand before you without armor, without rank, without title. I place my trust in you. Gasps echoed in the room. Even Commander Thera's face changed. Danil looked around. What is this? Gorn stepped forward. In our culture, this is the final unveiling. It is only done before a chosen bond. Riva has spoken. Danil's heart pounded. I didn't ask for this. Riva nodded. You didn't, but you acted when you had no reason to. You respected our ways. You tried to understand. And when danger came, your knowledge helped us. I choose you not because you are strong, but because you are true. Danil didn't know what to say. His mind raced. Then, slowly, he reached down and removed the patch from his uniform sleeve. The symbol of Earth Command. He held it in his hand for a moment, then placed it beside her folded tunic. I don't know what happens next, he said, but I won't walk away. Riva lowered her head in quiet respect. Later that day, as the sun from a nearby star lit the windows of the ship, Danil sat with Riva near the ship's garden bay. He looked at the leaves swaying gently under artificial wind. So, what am I now? Riva thought for a moment. You are still Danil. But now, you carry part of us. Danil chuckled. I was just a scout. I mapped stars and drank bad coffee. You are more now, she said softly, because you chose to listen when others would have shouted. You stepped forward when you could have stayed safe. Danil nodded slowly. Maybe, or maybe I was just too tired to be afraid. Riva gave a slight smile. Then fear made space for courage. A quiet silence settled between them. Outside, stars continued to drift across the endless dark. The journey back to Earth was not what Danil had expected. After the recognition ceremony on the Zalari cruiser, Riva insisted on traveling with him. The Admiral had agreed. She was to be part of the cultural envoy, a bridge between their worlds. Danil was nervous. He had never flown so close to Earth before, not as a visitor. And now, he was not alone. A Zalari warrior traveled beside him. As the small transport ship left Zalari space and entered the vast blackness of human territory, the atmosphere inside changed. The two were silent at first, each lost in their thoughts. Riva looked out the window at the stars. Your people live on a blue planet. Danil nodded. Yes, water covers most of it. Mountains, forests, cities, and people. Riva's golden eyes flicked toward him. I want to see it. Days passed. The two shared stories of their homes. Danil told her about Earth's seasons, its oceans, and cities that never slept. Riva spoke of Zolari moons, their warrior traditions, and the importance of honor. One evening, while the transport cruised near a quiet asteroid field, alarms blared suddenly. Hostile ships approaching. Danil shouted, rushing to the controls. Riva's eyes narrowed. Pirates, they sensed weakness. The transport's shields flickered as laser fire struck the hull. Danil's heart pounded. He remembered his training and the lessons from the Zolari trials. He took control, weaving the ship between the asteroids. Riva stood behind him, watching. Trust your instincts, she said quietly. Danil pulled a sharp turn. Like this? Exactly. They dodged blasts and returned fire with small defense lasers. A sudden impact rocked the ship. Danil struggled to keep control. We need to disable their leader, Riva said, stepping forward. She took a small weapon from her belt and aimed it at the control panel. With precise shots, she disabled the enemy ship's targeting systems. The pirate ships faltered and retreated. Danil let out a breath. That was close. Riva smiled faintly. You did well. After the attack, the two sat quietly in the cockpit. Danil broke the silence. Why did you come with me? You didn't have to. Riva's eyes met his. Because you showed strength beyond weapons. You showed understanding. You did not run. You did not fight blindly. Danil looked away. I was scared. Good. She said softly, fear makes you human, but courage makes you more. The transport finally approached Earth's orbit. The blue planet spun slowly below them. Cities glowed, oceans shimmered, and clouds drifted across the surface. Danil felt a strange mix of relief and excitement. Riva leaned forward. This is your home. He nodded. It is. They landed near a large space station. Humans and Zolari officers waited to greet them. Cameras flashed. Officials asked questions. Danil answered carefully, but not everyone was happy. Some Earth leaders were suspicious of the Zolari warrior traveling with a human scout. Others whispered about politics and alliances. Danil stood tall. We are here to build trust, to learn from each other. Riva remained silent beside him, her presence strong. Days passed on Earth. Danil introduced Riva to his world. She saw towering buildings, crowded markets, and green parks. People stared at her strange appearance, her golden eyes and smooth scales. But she walked proudly, no longer hidden behind armor. Danil showed her the ocean for the first time. They stood on the shore as waves crashed against rocks. She touched the water carefully. It is beautiful. He smiled. It's home. But not all was peaceful. Earth officials wanted Riva to return to Zolari space. Your mission here is over, they said. Riva shook her head. I came to learn, to stay. Danil stepped forward. She is not just a visitor. She is part of this now. The room fell silent. Danil took Riva's hand and held it firmly. I want her here, he said. Riva looked at Danil, then the officials. Her voice was calm. I choose to stay. The room shifted. Whispers turned to nods. Danil squeezed her hand. We face this together. Outside the window, the sun rose over Earth's horizon, casting warm light onto worlds beginning to connect. The meeting hall was full. Earth's leaders, Zolari ambassadors, and military officers stood together under bright lights. Cameras recorded every moment. The future of two worlds was on the line. At the center stood Danil and Riva. The officials had called this gathering to decide what would happen next. Riva had made her choice to stay on Earth. Some respected it. Others feared it. Danil looked around the room. His heart beat fast. He held Riva's hand tightly. It was a quiet but powerful signal. They were united. A tall official spoke first. Commander Riva, you are an honored warrior of the Zolari fleet. Your people demand your return. Riva nodded. I understand their duty, but I have chosen my own path. Another leader added, you are not human. This world is not your home. Why do you refuse to leave? Riva looked calmly at the crowd. I do not refuse. I choose to stay. Because I have found trust. Because I have found purpose. Danil stepped forward. You asked me once what I wanted. I said, jokingly, that I wanted you. But now I'm not joking. I want her here. The room grew quiet. He continued, She showed me strength, honor, and trust. She stood with me when no one else would. Our bond is real. It is not just between two people, but between our worlds. A woman in a sharp suit raised her voice. This is dangerous. We don't know the Zolari well enough to accept this. Danil shook his head. We know more than we think, because we listened, because we chose to understand. Riva stepped forward. Her voice was steady and clear. I am not a symbol or a weapon. I am a bridge. I want to help build peace, not war. The leaders looked at each other. Some nodded slowly. Then the admiral of the Zolari fleet spoke through a translator. Riva has broken tradition. She must return. But her actions have opened a door. It is time to walk through it. The hall fell silent. Riva looked at Danil. Whatever happens, we face it together. Danil smiled. Together. Outside, people waited. Some cheered for the alliance. Others whispered doubt. But Danil and Riva stood side by side, ready for what came next. Days passed. Plans were made for Riva to stay on Earth as an official envoy. She trained with human forces and taught them Zolari ways. Danil returned to scouting, but with a new mission: to protect the fragile peace they had built. One evening, under a sky full of stars, Danil and Riva stood on a balcony. He looked at her and said, "You asked what I wanted. Now I know." She smiled softly. "And what is that?" "To keep walking this path with you." She took his hand. "Then let us walk it." The stars above shone brightly as two worlds moved closer, not by force, but by choice.